Alright, now for those of you that do not know who in the world Leslie Headland is, she is the main writer of the Acolyte series that's being led by herself and Kathleen Kennedy, as well as a couple of other creators in there. But she is one in particular that has stated before in the past that she has never watched the prequel trilogy from start to finish, but yet she considers herself a fan of the prequels, so it's kind of like a real odd scenario where she's saying she's a fan, but she has never seen the prequels through and through. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and without further ado, let's get right into the subject. Now, one thing about Leslie Headland that a lot of fans have always criticized her about is how she always talks about George Lucas and how he really is not the answer to Star Wars. He's not really the main person to look up to when it comes to Star Wars, that the philosophy always needs to be changed. And we here have been talking about this for the past year and a half, about how Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland have always been talking about shifting away from that George Lucas philosophy that they call a burden in order to tell a proper story in the Acolyte series. Well, the latest has a lot to do with what's been going on behind the scenes. Since the very end of May, for the past couple of weeks, it's been something that has been going on, and something that has been creating more drama. Yeah, like, you know, we haven't heard that before. It's always evolving, it's always happening over at Lucasfilm. But sad but true, it is something that Leslie Headland is stirring up. Now, on top of this, with both Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland actively working on the Acolyte show. However, in a shocking development, writer Leslie Headland has been demanding for creator George Lucas to get fired from Lucasfilm together to prevent his work through Favreau and Filoni, to also prevent a transition between her work on the Acolyte and what's being done for series like Ahsoka, Mando Season 4, as well as other spin-offs. The main reasoning behind this has much to do with the fact that Leslie despises George's outlook on Star Wars, and that it is too close and it's too closed in to one way of storytelling. Since George has been working on set with Ahsoka as a series, and even during post-production lately, it's ascribed to completely outperform the Acolyte series through and through, and Leslie knows this. This is a true divide between creators over at Lucasfilm, much like the fan division, surprisingly, and Leslie has been pushing for Kathleen Kennedy to convince Disney to fire Lucas both as a planned co-writer for future Star Wars shows in the works, as well as an executive producer for the upcoming Star Wars Underworld series. Now let me pause right here for 1 second. Now we know that Leslie Headland has always criticized George Lucas's work, especially with, you know, the fact that she always considers him not the answer to Star Wars. She's said this many, many times for the past couple of years. But what's happening behind closed doors right now for the Acolyte is that she is calling for his removal completely from Lucasfilm, both as a co-writer, as an advisor, and as a future executive producer for the Star Wars Underworld show, because she is afraid about how his outlook on Star Wars being picked up by John and Dave is going to completely outperform her work on the Acolyte. Now, if you guys know nothing about Kathleen Kennedy or Leslie Headland, these are two egomaniacs, as I like to call them. They really are. They're very ego-driven. They believe that whatever they do, whatever they say, is a must for Star Wars. And this is no different than what Kathleen Kennedy did with the sequel trilogy elements, and I say elements because I do feel that there are some pieces in the sequels that work, but a lot of them don't work. A lot of it has to do with why she allowed Rian Johnson to do what he did with The Last Jedi. Let's not forget that Leslie Headland completely supports Rian Johnson through and through. She has stated this before in the past, that she 100% supports Rian Johnson killing off Luke Skywalker in Episode 8. She felt it was the right call, and that it was long overdue, that it was very well done and well established and executed in Episode 8. She fully supports it, and that goes to show you exactly who she's really all about. Now, the next thing about this, that's even all the more revealing, alright, is that both Filoni and Favreau are reportedly disgusted over the fact that Leslie is calling for George's firing and removal through Kathleen Kennedy trying to reach out to Disney executives, and that it's only creating more issues for the production of The Acolyte, as it is now officially entering post-production, with some reshoots also planned for this fall. Now, Leslie Headland's, of course, calling for George's removal is actually, of course, all rooted to the Acolyte series and how he was removed from the set. He's not allowed, by the way, to enter to the set of the Acolyte, never was, for this very reason, alright? So it's all rooted to Leslie Headland. Kathleen Kennedy is now calling for George's removal through Leslie to Disney executives, of course, through Leslie's request, and it's only creating more drama between different Disney executives, and has been for the past couple of weeks now. Since the end of May, this has all been going on. Now, guys, let's just be very clear. George is not getting removed. It's not going to happen. Disney CEO Bob Iger is not falling for this. Many of the executives are not even listening to this proposal by Kathleen Kennedy through Leslie Headland. But one thing that it is causing is a lot of drama, things stirring up behind closed doors, and a lot of which is really to prevent this transition, or this, I guess you could say, comparison between what is good and what is lackluster in Star Wars. And that's what Kathleen Kennedy is afraid of, that's what Leslie Headland is afraid of, and that's exactly why they want nothing to do with George Lucas over at Lucasfilm. Again, we've said this before, right now, George is advising and working heavily on The Acolyte and Mando Season 4. He's even set to direct a couple of scenes for Mando Season 4, eventually becoming a co-writer for the future Star Wars films that John and Dave will be working on, such as the Dave Filoni movie. And not just that, but also an executive producer, like we said before, for Underworld, which basically is going to be a crime syndicate-driven Star Wars series in the underbellies of course, Coruscant, in the depths of Coruscant, so to speak. So that was the original plan for the first live-action series before it got shut down back in 2007. The only thing that I can think about in my mind is, why would Disney allow anybody like this to be on board over at Lucasfilm? Somebody like Leslie Headland is beyond me. Well, the biggest answer to that question is, Acolyte is a show that Kathleen Kennedy has 100% creative power over and even financial control over, for the most part, unless it really creates that much damage. And part of Kathleen Kennedy's contract allows her to allow any kind of creators to come on board as she pleases. And The Acolyte is rooted to Leslie Headland. So this is why, for the longest time, I've been saying this here, and for those of you that have been following for the past couple of years, I never supported Leslie Headland. I never will. I don't support The Acolyte, even though we can't judge anything until it actually arrives. I'm fully aware about that. But when I look at who is controlling that show and what they are all about and what they believe in, I really am just not looking forward to this show. I'm looking forward to Mando Season 4, Ahsoka Season 1 and 2, stuff like that. Filoni and Favreau's work is the stuff that I'm looking forward to. That's the stuff right there. But this Acolyte nonsense, I don't believe it's gonna work. I believe it's gonna be like The Last Jedi of Star Wars television, if you guys want my real 2 cents here. So, anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.